Everyone in the XRP army has a great Monday. Thank you for coming back to the CryptoZX channel. Thank you so much for your help. Let's talk about what's going on. Today is the first day of a new week. When we look at the last hour, like we do with crypto bubbles, we can see that the market is moving back into the green. Of course, it still has a long way to go, but that's a good place to start our story. Now let's take a quick look at the price, 310, which is about 0.4% less than the USD value. The price of Bitcoin has gone up by about 0.3%, going back above $180 billion. It is now worth $183.5 billion, and about $7.2 billion worth of Bitcoin is traded every 24 hours. But look at this. There were 134,021 buyers who lost almost $600 million in the last 24 hours. Guys, I know that a lot of new money is coming in. People like you who are new to crypto and are learning about it in this way. Those of you who have been watching for a while know that I don't like margin trading. And, this keeps showing that market trickery could lead to a lot of liquidations. This is just one of many examples I've given you. If you're new to the markets, here's a tip. Do your research. It is very important to always do your study and only invest money that you can afford to lose. After doing those three things, the first thing you should do is be patient. So if you like XRP, you should pretty much spot buy it and just hold on to it. That's more important than, say, borrowing money and dealing and other things like that. Trust me, I've done those things. I've been in this business for almost 10 years. Next year will be 10 years. And I've done a lot of leverage dealing. Boy, have I learned a lot since then, and I would never talk about that on my show. You guys know that I've been offered a lot of money to push leverage trading platforms, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to do it. I don't care how many times I say it, but please don't do that. Anyway, before we go any further, I want to make it clear that nothing on this channel is meant to be taken as financial advice. As with any investment, you should always do your own study before putting money into crypto. That's all there is to it. The SEC didn't make a ruling on the Canary Spot XRP ETF as planned. That due date was coming up. We had been talking about this, and then all of a sudden they said, hey, let's put this off. Also, this is something, personally, I'm not surprised because I couldn't have seen an XRP ETF going live before our grade cut, and I think these ETFs will all be accepted at the same time. When it comes to XRP, I personally believe that. It's likely that everything will happen at once if the SEC says, okay, now is the time to approve this. And it was clear that this one was coming up earlier, so I think they put it off for a while, but I think that sometime in October, when a lot of those ETFs deadlines are, I could finally see an ETF file go live for Spot XRP. That would be a huge accomplishment for the XRP army. I agree with that point of view. Sure, feel free to tell me what you think in the comments. But first, let's look at this beautiful story. I'm not going to read the whole piece, but if you want to, you should. Digital asset custody, on the other hand, builds institutional robustness, compliance, and scale. So why does control of digital assets matter? For this reason, custody is an important way for businesses to get into the digital asset market. It sets up the machinery needed to lower risk, make sure regulations are followed, and make new business models possible. A new report from Ripple and Boston Consulting says that the value of tokenized real-world assets will grow quickly and hit nearly $18.9 trillion by 2033. This will cause demand to rise quickly. The Ripple 2025 New Value Report shows that institutions are becoming more and more interested in adopting digital. Again, are we surprised? That's where you've seen the complete change happen since Trump took office and the new government took over. Even though only 30% of companies use custody options right now, another 52% plan to do so in the next 3 years. This is where Ripple comes in. Don't forget that they bought a custody tool. It takes 4 agencies to really provide custody services and consulting services. And these are puzzle parts that many people don't pay attention to, but we don't want to. Key things to remember from the workshop on custody and hacking. First, make sure that the system for custody is compliant from the start. Second, pick the custody plan that works best for your business. And finally, operational resilience is very important for custody facilities. To make custody operations more resilient, processes need to be designed so they can keep running even when things go wrong, while still allowing for control, visibility, and service opportunities. This means adding multiple levels of access controls, clear ways to get help, and strong monitoring and reaction to incidents. As custody operations spread across more time zones and countries, these parts are necessary to make sure that large-scale performance is safe and continuous. 4, trust in institutions must be based on good governance. Good governance is just as important as technical protection when it comes to keeping digital assets safe. Clear separation of tasks, independent oversight, and structured reporting lines are some of the ways that this is done to lower the risk of internal conflict or mistakes made by people. A lot of regulatory frameworks already take these assumptions into account. Strong governance usually includes internal rules that keep custody operations separate from trading or finance functions, official training for people who handle assets, and full audit. It trails to make sure that everyone is responsible for everything that happens. And finally, number 5, custody is very important for making safe coin use grow. Guys, this is important. This is where Ripple really shines and provides these services. Look at this. Solutions that look ahead. So solutions that meet these needs will make it possible for stable coins, tokenized finance, and cross-border payments to move on to the next level. These solutions could be self-custodial, third-party providers, or hybrid models. For example, Ripple Custody is made to help institutions safely manage tokenized assets while also allowing for legal compliance, operational flexibility, and integration at the enterprise level. There you have it. This is only a small part of it. This is just one thing that Ripple does. The company didn't start out offering security services, but now that they have a lot of experience in the field and regulations are becoming clearer, banks and other financial institutions that don't know much about it are starting to. This is where Ripple comes in, and their 13 years of experience speak for themselves. Also, I want you to remember that, but bring the price back up to $3.09 XRP. Today, $1877 million came in net. To say it again, this doesn't surprise us. I will, of course, make that clearer for you guys later in this post. But take a look at this big month for the Ripple XRP ledger. Its RWA value went up by 32.27%, and its DeFi TVL value went up to 19%. And the most speed open Eden is happy to be at the top of the XRPL RWA league table for the last 30 days, most growth in institutional grade RWA. We're at the top of the chart for tokenization, which is on the rise. People who usually say we're not seeing any activity on the XRP ledger, let us look at this. You can see this for yourself. This is the XRP L record RWA league table. There are things going on, and RWAs are still in their very early stages. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that putting the Genius Act into action is necessary for DOE. This will increase demand for U.S. treasuries, which are backed by stablecoins. Everyone benefits, people who use stablecoins, people who make stablecoins, and the U.S. Treasury Department. Also, shout it out to Smoke. Remember that XRP, XLM, and Algo are the building blocks of government-aligned cash. XRP, XLM, and Algo are examples of state-aligned digital assets. An entirely separate group is emerging digital asset infrastructure design or position for government-aligned tasks. It's important to note that assets like XRP, Stellar, and Algorand are designed to provide liquidity, have high throughput, settle transactions quickly, and work with current financial infrastructure. These crypto assets backed by the government also follow ISO 222. That's it, guys. Let's talk about the cost now. As you can see, control has been going down since our last report, which is a good thing to see. We haven't gone over 60% yet. To say it again, I'm really positive. The other thing you should look at is BTC. Let's update it live for you guys. There is $116,165 for Bitcoin right now. In other words, Bitcoin is going back up. This is a good sign because where we were yesterday made it possible for us to test the August lows, which were around $112,000. But, that didn't last long. A bounce did happen, and the daily candle close is still a few hours away. Also, I think we'll close above 117,000, which is really cool. But at $3, XRP is making its way back above the key band. Again and again, I've told you guys that we're building up pretty well. A lot of people forget that XRP isn't the only thing that's going back down. The overall direction of the market will have an effect on XRP, and as you can see, that's exactly what happened. But that didn't last long. Yes, you did get at the 293 level. XRP is expected to go up by about 6%. There is clear sign upward at $3.11. And if we can close our daily candle in this range, around the $3.10 range, that would be great. We're pretty much back where we were before this, or a clear change that has been noted. So that's it. A lot of people who sold quickly are now looking at the price, and the price has gone back to where it was. This is why I always say, do your research and only invest money that you can afford to lose. If you did that,